Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I very rarely talk about foods that I avoid on WW. I'm a big sharer of what I do like to eat and the foods that I do enjoy and that I love to cook. You guys will know that from my What I Eat in Days, my Cook with Natasha Summar series. I'm always cooking, I love to eat, I love to find new recipes to share and everything like that. But I often get asked about the things that I don't like to eat and things that I tend to avoid whilst being on this plan. So what I thought I would do today is share with you things that I avoid and that I like to kind of cut out in some cases completely from my diet and have very, very occasionally. So that is what we're going to be chatting about today in hopes it inspires you guys, helps you to make smarter choices and just lets you know, because I know a lot of you are curious about it because I do get asked a lot. So before we begin, this is a bit of a disclaimer. I'm not saying that I don't eat these entirely. I do on the odd occasion. I have the odd micro meal. You guys will know that from my vlogs and I do share that. But on the most part, these are the things that I tend to avoid, and there is one item here that I kind of cut off completely from my diet, and I will explain my reasons why for that as well. So I'm just going to get started, and the first thing I'm going to talk about is jars of sauce. Now, it's very easy and very convenient to opt for jars of sauces, and what I mean by that is things like dole meal, jarred curries like Lloyd Grossman, that kind of thing. And they're a great quick fix, especially if you're stuck for time. But when you can make your own sauces from scratch, you will absolutely see the benefit, not only in the smart points because it takes much less, but also there is a lot of preservatives in there, there's a lot of sugar, and it just bumps up the point value, so you can actually eat less of the item that you're eating. Whereas if you made it yourself from scratch, you know, number one, exactly what goes into it, so you know exactly what you're putting into your body. But number two, you can point it really effectively by choosing low point value ingredients to make up the sauce. For example, passata, garlic, basil, oregano. You can make a really lovely pasta sauce from scratch that would cost you perhaps 1 smart point instead of a jar that might equate to like 7. So it's really worth thinking about making what you can from scratch, and I've spoken about this before because again, you know exactly what's in it, and 9 times out of 10 you can have significantly more, which is going to make you fuller for longer and less likely to snack. So where you can, avoid pre-made sauces and pre-made jars of things. Obviously there's a time and a place for them. As I've said, I give them to my kids when I'm stuck for time and I can't make them from scratch. I'm not saying that they're a bad thing, but what I am saying is if you want your points to go further, and I have done a video on making your smart points go further, I'll link that above. But when I can, and for the most part for myself, I avoid jars entirely unless I'm super stuck for time, and 9 times out of 10 I don't even eat it then, like the family will, but I don't. I make mine from scratch because it's really easy, and 9 times out of 10 they taste so much better as well. So that's the first thing. The second thing kind of goes in the same vein, and that is ready meals. So I'm not against ready meals. Again, there is definitely a time and a place for them, and I give them to the kids on a wet Saturday when we've just walked in from errands and things and I just don't have the time. Again, they're very convenient, especially if you opt for ones that are catered for this plan, like WW do ready meals and that kind of thing. Again, I'm not against them, but when you can cook majority of your food that you eat from scratch, again, likelihood is you can have 2 to 3 times the amount before you've taken up the smart points of one ready meal, which is crazy really, because you can think about like all the food that you could be consuming and you'd be so much fuller for longer if you just avoided it, because again, they contain a lot of sugar, a lot of preservatives. 9 times out of 10 they don't even use nice cuts of meat in ready meals. So if you can make things from scratch, I would definitely recommend it. Again, more for the quantity, not just the nutritional values, but the amount that you can have would be so much more. And again, you know exactly what's gone into it, and you can batch cook. Like if you don't have the time, just allocate a set few hours each week and then batch cook for the week. Do it in massive portions, pop them in the freezer. I have done a whole video on meal planning, I'll link it above in case you haven't had time to check that out yet, but that kind of explains how I cook everything from scratch and how I allocate it in my freezer for each day. And it's super convenient, and again, it stops me from opting for that takeaway menu. Speaking of takeaways, the next thing I'm going to talk about is boxed pizza and boxed burgers. Now, I avoid boxed burgers and pizzas entirely. I do not eat them myself. The only time you'll see me eating a takeaway pizza is if we've gone out to a restaurant or I've literally ordered it from a takeaway shop. When it comes to buying pizza, I literally do not even buy them, even for the kids, because they're so easy to whip up. I can make dough in a matter of a couple of hours if you can leave it to proof, and then I freeze it, and then when I know I want pizza night or the kids want some, I can just defrost it and it's super easy, pop my toppings on. So again, by the time you've taken up the calories or the smart point values of one slice of, say, Chicago Town or Pizza Hut pizza, you can have an entire pizza that you have made from scratch. It is no joke. Like, it's a world of difference, and I love making my own pizza. I've actually done a cook along with me, which I will link above, which talks you through the process from start to finish, so you might want to go and check that out if you are looking for pizza inspo. But honestly guys, number one, it's so much more flavorful and delicious, but also it's in line with your plan, it's better for you, and you can have a whole pizza. And I mean, who doesn't want to eat a whole pizza, am I right? And that is the same with burgers. Honestly guys, they are so easy. You might look and think, oh, you know, it's messy, it's this, that and the other, but if you can make a burger from scratch, number one, it's so much more flavorful. You can really have a mess about with flavors and textures, add chili in there, add all sorts, and just really get creative with it. But also you can have, again, double the value. So I am a big advocate for making my own pizzas and burgers, guys. Like, I cannot recommend it enough, especially if you want to host a fakeaway night, you're entertaining for friends. I've actually recently done a video on the recipes that I do recommend for a fakeaway. I will link that above, so you can go and check that out for inspo. But honestly guys, pizzas and burgers I tend to completely avoid unless I've made it from scratch, or as I said, we're dining out or ordering in. The next thing is something that I have cut out completely from my food groups. And that's not to say you guys should too. This is just a personal preference of mine. I'm not against this food. My children love it. Andrew loves it. It's just not for me personally. And I used to binge on it. And I think that's the reason that I've kind of cut it out, because it's just no good for me, and that is pasta. Now, I'm a big lover of pasta sauces. Like, I make ragouts all the time, lasagnas, that kind of thing, and I love the sauce, the rich tomato sauce with the meat and the veggies. I cannot get enough of that, and I love it. And I tend to eat it with bread, flatbreads, garlic bread, ciabatta, like whatever. I'm a big fan of sauces, but when it comes to the actual bulky pasta, I'm just not a fan of it anymore. I find it bloats me, it makes me feel really sluggish, it makes me feel super full really quickly. So I have like 2 or 3 spoons of it and I'm already full, whereas if I was just eating the sauce and I packed it full of veggies and lentils and meat with a bit of bread, I could literally eat a whole bowl and feel completely fine. A bit of pasta and I just feel uncomfortable, bloated, heavy, again sluggish, and it just doesn't agree with me. So when it comes to pasta, I've cut that out entirely. Rice I love. Rice used to bloat me a little bit, but because I love it so much, I found ways of having it and mixing it in with different things to make it bulkier, but I still have that rice hit that I love. I haven't managed to cut rice out yet, and I don't think I ever will because I love it too much, but pasta just left me feeling so bloated, so unhappy in my tummy that I've just cut it out. But again, that might not be possible because I know, like, the way I feel about rice is the way most people probably feel about pasta, so it's difficult. But for me personally, it's not even worth the point value. It is so high. I could have literally 2 bowls of sauce by the time I've even taken up a third of the smart points of a pasta serving, so that is good for me and that's what I tend to do. And the last thing I want to talk about is something I don't have often, but it surprises me every time. It takes me back when I scan a boxed item every single time, and that is pies and pastries and pasties. So there's a pie that I absolutely adore from Marks and Spencer's, and it's the cheese and onion pie. It comes in a green box and I adore it. I absolutely love it, can't get enough of it. And I went to get one the other day and I scanned it and it was 14 points for the tiniest serving. In fact, I think it might have even been more than that, guys, because I remember feeling so taken back by it that I was like, right, what is in this? And it made me kind of just have a bit of a look. So I made my own cheese and onion pie from scratch, and honestly, I didn't even take up the third of the point value, which is crazy because it tasted just as good. So for me personally, I have cut out any boxed pies, pasties and things like that, just because, again, if you can dedicate that time to make it from scratch, again, it's not always possible, but if you can, it will make the world of difference. I almost begrudged eating the boxed one. Like, I can't foresee a time where I'd think it was worth it to spend that many points on it. I can't for the life of me think of what must be in it that is bumping it up that high, because when I made one from scratch, it was nowhere near that point value. But again, it's all about being educated. It's all about learning on these things and working out what works for me, adding things, taking it away. So it's a process. But those are the foods, guys, that I tend to try and not have as much of, or completely and entirely avoid in some cases. As I said, the pasta. Again, I don't label food as good and bad. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't be eating these foods. I eat micro meals on the odd occasion. My kids eat them on the odd occasion. And, you know, we all need that jar of sauce on a gloomy, wet night, and we've got in and we want a curry and we just do not have the time. But what I'm talking about is, for the most part, 90% of the time, if you do put these tips into action, then the 10% of you having these foods are completely fine and acceptable. You can have them whenever you want, but what I'm saying is you're more likely to reap the benefits and be able to eat more and be happier, healthier, fuller if you try and make what you can from scratch. And again, if you do not have the time, try and allocate a day a week where you can just do a bit of batch cooking and have yourself set for the coming weeks. So I hope you've all enjoyed my tips today. Comment down below with any foods that you tend to avoid, what shocks you when you go to the supermarket and you're using your scanner, things that you loved before, like me with the pasta, that you're not loving so much now. I'd be super interested because my palette has completely changed. So do get in touch down below. Don't forget to subscribe to see more WW content from me, along with beauty, fashion, lifestyle vlogs. I would love to have you here. Give it a like if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in my next video.